Welcome. Feel me? We will get started now. If this is your first class, my name is Professor X. It is good to see you today in wealth building class. Today we're going to talk about wealth rituals, right? Now, I have 4 different rituals planned, like I said. I've explained this a few times since we started, but I see some of y'all just joined, so I'm going to give one more rundown. I'm going to teach 4 wealth rituals in respect to a system that I developed called elemental assets. Now, elemental assets just analyzes the different energies that come along with money, right? That come along with not just money, but finances in general, right? Economies. You have 4 different energies: water, air, fire, and earth. You have other energies as well, but we mainly focus on those 4. And those greatly affect our economy and financial systems in the physical world, right? Everything that we do is an aspect of those 4 energies. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's a combination of those energies, right? So we're going to go over that over that lesson today in today's class. We talked about this a few classes ago, and I'm going to keep bringing it up, but I wanted to talk about it again today because it is very important when we do the wealth rituals. The wealth rituals are split up into different elements, and the different elements that we're going to be applying in the rituals affect the outcomes of the ritual, right? So I wanted to go over elemental assets one more time for those who have not heard of it. Some of y'all are almost pros in it. You feel me? Y'all been taking notes, and I appreciate that. If you haven't taken notes on this before, I advise you to take notes on today's lesson, because I will not be talking about elemental assets probably for like another 2 or 3 classes. So it's good to get these concepts now and write them down so that you can know it for the future. When I do bring it back up, you already know what I'm talking about, so you can just be ready to participate in whatever activities that I have for you, right? First, we're going to get into earth element. Earth is the most important element and asset when it comes to physical systems, right? So when we talk about physical economics, earth assets are going to be your natural resources, like things like gold, silver, oil, like tangible, hard resources. When it comes to trees, wood, things like that, things that we build with, right? We start the foundations of economic systems with these elemental assets, right? Earth is super important because it is the only element that can withstand the test of time, right? So when it comes to like a few thousand years ago, I talked about this in the book, but a few thousand years ago, they had economic systems that were basically founded off of trading things like onions, trading barley, trading wheat, things like trading, non-metallic assets. And then we started moving into metals, silver, gold, things of that nature. But it's always some sort of physical asset that we commodify, right? Earth assets, like I said, are super important because they're the only asset that can stand the test of time. So if you want to have true lasting wealth in life, like, you need to get you some gold, some silver, like the things that have kept their value for thousands of years, and I have only kept their value, but they're going up in value. If you've been paying attention to economics, if you've been paying attention to the charts, gold and silver have been skyrocketing. You feel me? They kind of dive down a little bit, but they're not going back down to where they used to be. It's still over the long-term trend. Gold and silver are going super, super high in value, right? Those are because those are earth assets. They're the things that have true value within the physical realm. Like, this is real worth, right? And we create these systems. They come from our imagination. Yeah, who says that this is worth that and blah, blah, blah. I understand that. But it's also spiritual as well. Gold, silver, things of these nature, they have a spiritual, energetic value that we assign to these things. Like, it's not just from somebody's ass, That's why earth assets are super important. Now, when it comes to our earth ritual, we're going to be experimenting with, grounding our value and grounding our intentions into the earth. I'm going to have you bury something if that's what you're down with, or if you want to do another ritual, that's fine. But, grounding our intention and our energy with the earth element is how we sustain these, the effects of these rituals long term, right? You can't have real wealth in the physical realm without having earth energy, period. It's because like energy attracts like energy. I talk about this, the law of correspondence in the book. I talk about that, where it's like, if I have this energy, it's always going to attract the same energy. Like attracts like. So this is the physical realm. This is earth. This is like the bottom level of reality. When you talk about the 12 planes and all the different spiritual planes of existence, Earth is like the bottom. This is the physical universe, right? Everything that is physical is going to flourish here and it's going to stand the test of time. So, Earth assets are always going to be at the pinnacle of financial systems in the physical realm, right? Next, we talked about water in the book. 333 on the clock. Appreciate you. Next we talked about water. Now, water is what allows these systems to actually, I want to say flow, right? Obviously, water is going to have circulation, right? When it comes to the old financial systems where I told you they were trading barley and wheat, at first there was no trade. You would just collect whatever you found, or you would grow something with your little people, in your village or group. But then different villages and groups started trading. That's fluidity. That is the water element, and that's what helps grows economies, right? You can't grow an economy without water energy, right? When you add water to earth, what happens? Things grow, period. Just think of it like that. It's super simple. It's important to have water energy because it is mutable. It stands, like I said, earth energy stands the test of time, but water energy makes things adaptable. Like Bruce Lee said, be like water, right? Water energy can help you avoid catastrophe, right? So it's like if we have a village, right? And it's like a network of villages. In one of the villages, their earth assets fail, they have no more crops, no anything, then they can still trade. Whatever they do have, they can trade that for the things that they need. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, even though we all don't have the same thing, we have different things, that's okay, because we can trade and all have the same things at the end of the day, if that makes sense. So water energy is super important because it allows circulation, right? It can also help you attract and flow of abundance rapidly, right? When you talk about currency, this is a current. Your money is always supposed to be in circulation. Hoarding a bunch of money is cool, but it's not going to do the best for you. The people who are super rich in this world, they're rich because their money is always in circulation, or it's in some type of stock exchange or something like that, where it can be sitting still, but it's still acting within the economy, right? Next, we're going to talk about fire energy, right? And if you're familiar with economics, fire energy is going to sound a lot like supply and demand, and that's because that's what fire energy is. Fire energy is more or less the product of the whims of people, right? When we talk about emotions, when we talk about passion, everybody's individual whims and whimsy is what causes fire energy in the world. And this is what surges value within financial systems. So it's like when we talk about the dollar, right? The US dollar, or the dollar wherever you're from, euro. I know everybody has different currencies, but think about the smallest unit of whatever currency that you are familiar with. For me, it's the dollar because I'm in the United States. The dollar of value, it stays at $1, but it's going up and down in comparison to other currencies. You see what I'm saying? That's supply and demand. When supply goes up, when there's a abundance of the dollar, its value goes down. And when the supply decreases and there's only a little bit of it, the demand goes up. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of a tricky concept when you explain it in terms of supply and demand in economics, but when you explain it in energy, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, for example, if I go out into the world, right, and I'm just for everybody, right? I'm just giving my energy to everybody. I don't really have too much value at that point. It's not hard to get a hold of me. There's no exclusivity, but if I make myself exclusive, if I walk higher, if I don't make myself for everybody, then my value will go up. It is harder to get a hold of me, therefore people will value my presence more. You see what I'm saying? If you understand that, put a fire emoji in the chat. If not, I can go over it one more time. When we're all in a room, imagine all 15 of us in one room, and there's only one piece of bread for all of us to eat. That one piece of bread becomes a lot more valuable now, versus if we had 100 pieces of bread, then the bread is less. It worth less because there's so much of it. We don't have to, we have enough to go around. You see what I'm saying? But when there's less, then it's worth more. Simple, right? This is supply and demand. Now, this is related to fire energy because the supply and demand is what creates fire energy. The fire energy is what surges value. So if we have the dollar, if there's more fire energy in our dollar that comes from, people buying up things in the store or people not buying things in the store, because it can go both ways, then, fire energy will affect the value of our currency. You see what I'm saying? And it doesn't have to only be currency as well. During COVID showed this for sure. Exactly. You feel me? During COVID, even though people were getting like laid off and shit, people were losing their jobs, demand for shit went up. Ironically, because people were at home a lot more and the stores were getting bombarded because people were panicking. You see me? And then they started raising prices on us because when demand goes up, the supply goes down because everybody's buying everything up. Now it's worth more. So if me and you all want the same toilet paper, the people who own the toilet paper are gonna raise the price because they know that we're gonna buy it anyway. So they're gonna raise the price. Simple. So we pay more when there's less and less when there's more. Exactly. Just remember that what GM said. We pay more when there's less and we pay less when there's more. Now there are other extraneous things that affect this process, but we're just going to keep it simple for now. Scarcity holds value. Exactly. And I talk about that in the book. Being able to create artificial scarcity is a big major key that you need to learn in life. Scarcity ultimately is fake, but in the physical world, it's very real. Ultimately, you have to truly master the concepts that I'm speaking to you. You have to always feel abundant. You have to always feel like you have infinite everything that you need to survive and to not only survive, but to live, right? That's how you're going to be able to maximize the use of these concepts that I'm saying to you. But being able to create artificial scarcity can benefit you a lot in the physical world. And scarcity is what raises that fire energy. Now, fire energy is cool on a metaphysical level because, like I said, it's what surges value. So if I want to do a ritual or whatever, and I want I want to speed something up, or I want something to get exponentially bigger than with the input that I put in, fire energy is the way. Now, fire energy can bite you back as well, so I will be careful with fire energy. Fire burns people, and that's not just like a physical thing. Like, fire energy can fuck you up because just as fast as things go up, things can go down. Just as fast as your money come up, your money can go down, right? So you want to make sure that you're carrying with fire energy with the utmost level of care, not just fucking with it like it's anything, right? Next, I want to talk about air energy a little bit. I don't really talk about air energy in this chapter of the book, the chapter that I showed y'all that y'all didn't hear. But I do talk about it later in the book. Air assets and air energy is basically the conceptual value that we bring to the table, right? So when it comes to me right now, I'm spitting you a lesson, right? I made this lesson in my mind. That is my intellectual wealth. That is my intelligence. And that holds value, right? It doesn't take up physical space, but it holds value. And that's the air element. It's almost like ether. I pull it out of nowhere, right? That's the air element. And you can turn this, you can ground this, you can condense this knowledge into physical wealth. That's one of the main things I preach about in the book is turning one element into another element. If you can turn your air assets into earth assets, then you are golden. If you can circulate your earth assets using water energy, then you are golden. It's all about using the elements in conjunction, right? But back to air elements and air assets, right? This is like intellectual property. This is your ideas. This is your knowledge, ideas and, air element or air assets are going to be some of the most important things in life. And they're really slept on because, people want tangible things. And that is unfortunate in the physical world. We need tangible things. And you don't get necessarily rewarded for having air element or air assets. But you have to put that into work. Like, you have to build a mechanism, a physical mechanism that'll ground in that air energy, right? So like what I told you, these ideas that I'm saying to you right now, I made these in my mind. I pulled them out of the air. But I formulated the class so that I could teach people how to build wealth, right? And this is physically applicable. Like, I've had people from this class DM me like, hey, it's been working and blah, blah, blah. I like the stuff that you teach. And that is the point. Being able to ground this knowledge into physical assets, right? That is the air element. So what about digital assets? I'm glad that you asked that. And that's fucked up that you didn't hear it, because in the book I talked about digital assets. Digital assets, I can give a rundown real quick. Digital assets, we're talking about assets that are using many different elements, right? So When we talk about like physical money, right? Currency, fiat, that is water energy. It has a little bit of earth energy to it, but at the same time, it really doesn't, because paper is not worth shit. What is really worth shit is the shit that backs the money. And even though in the United States our shit is messed up, the physical money is backed by physical money that doesn't exist yet. And that's why we're in hella debt. Before, everything used to be backed by gold and silver. And I believe that we're going back to that system. Like, we could talk about that after class if you want to. But, we're going back to that gold standard. And you're seeing it because all of the banks in the world are buying up all of the gold. That's why the price of gold is going super up right now, because everybody's buying up all the gold. And they want the gold. The banks want the gold so that they can start to back digital currencies with that gold, or back fiat currency with that gold, right? So when it comes to digital assets like cryptocurrency, that's going to be a water asset, but the blockchain that is I guess housing that digital asset is going to provide all of the earth energy. But it has a lot of fire energy as well, because specifically like Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin is specifically altered by people's supply and demand. Like, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are some of the most susceptible currencies to supply and demand. So fire energy is going to surge up that value a lot. And you see, a Bitcoin was worth like 30 cents like 20 years ago. I don't even know if Bitcoin existed 20 years ago. But now Bitcoin is worth like, what's it at, like 60, 70,000? But a few months ago, Bitcoin was at like 120,000, right? If you're smart, you would have sold at like 100,000 like I did, and you bought back at like 50,000, 60,000 like I'm going to. But we could talk about crypto in a whole nother class. That's the gist on digital assets. They use a bunch of different elements in conjunction, and those are the best assets to have. I'm telling you, the best assets to have right now, especially through all the wealth transfers that are going on. You want earth assets. This is physical, silver, gold, oil. If you have any, if you find oil in your backyard, sell it. Like, do whatever you got to do. But you need earth assets, and then the other assets that you need are going to be stocks and crypto. Those are the things that are going to have true value long term. If you look at shit like stocks have outperformed classical assets like gold, silver. Stocks have completely outperformed all of the true earth assets, because they're a combination of many different elements. You have the earth asset element or aspect of stocks that is actually holding in its value relatively to the company that it represents. And then you have the fire asset, which is people buying and selling their stock in that company, and different campaigns that the companies do to get buyers, to get investors. That is the gist of digital assets, right? So I heard that with crypto, when it goes down is because the collective energy is in lack, low vibration, and when it goes up, the collective energy is in abundance and high vibration. Basically, that's a good energetic representation of it. If you want to talk about it in boring terms, basically when people's confidence goes down in digital currency, they'll sell it, and the price goes down when people sell, right? When people buy a lot of the digital currency, that's because they're confident in digital currency, so the price goes up. When people buy, price goes up. When people sell, the price goes down. Remember that. That'll be very fruitful for you. I know a lot of y'all are day traders and swing traders and all of that shit. Buy, the price goes up. Sell, the price goes down. Right? So the fire is going up and down. Yeah, the fire energy is just the product of things going up and down. Just like as fast as it goes up, it can go down again. That's why fire energy is so dangerous. But if you can master it, which cryptocurrency has showed us that we can do, we can master fire energy. We can master supply and demand, and put that energy into a digital currency, Bitcoin, period. If you can master that fire energy, you'll get rich. There's so many Bitcoin millionaires. It's Bitcoin billionaires. They put in, a little bit of money 20 years ago, and that money has just compounded and compounded and compounded and compounded. You see me? That's why I advise everybody, buy earth assets. This is your gold, silver, things like that. Buy your mixed assets, which is your stocks, cryptocurrency, and get some cash as well. Water energy is good to be adaptable. You want to be able to buy things on the spot if you need to, but I would not put all your energy into cash. I would not put all of your energy into storing money in a bank. Like that's basically cash. Money in the bank is the same as fiat currency. It's not doing anything for you other than losing value, right? When you put your money into certain stocks, the price is only going to go up long term, right? It might go down short term, but long term, the trends show you that things go up, right? So I would put your money, ooh, my bad, burp for confirmation, but I would put your money, if you want to get into like ETFs or stock exchanges, you know, S&P 500, put your money into there. It tracks the top companies in the world, and your money grows with them. You see me? We can do a whole other class about different stock and exchange ETF options, but right now I want to keep it on the elemental assets, right? Hopefully y'all get the gist of elemental assets. If you get the gist of how each element affects the physical financial systems, put a gold emoji in the chat.